endless breath of the desert, where the dunes shift like restless spirits and the wind carries ancient whispers. Fear is never far behind. The old Bedouins tell tales not to entertain, but to warn. In places untouched by time, deep, within abandoned villages, forgotten wadis, and cursed oases, something waits, something unseen, something hungry. Tonight, listen carefully. Not everything that walks these sands is made of flesh and blood, and not every voice you hear is meant to be answered. These are 3 true tales, each one a door to a darkness you might never come back from. A single misstep, a glance too long into the night, and you may awaken something that should have stayed sleeping. Story 1. The Whispering Wadi. It began with a journey. A young man named Tariq, traveling alone across an abandoned desert path. The sun had long slipped beneath the horizon, leaving only the cold embrace of night. As he crossed a narrow valley, a wadi choked with brittle shrubs and ancient rocks, he heard it. A voice, thin as a dying breath, calling his name.
Tariq.
Tariq. Soft at first, then stronger. He turned. No, only the heavy darkness pressing against his skin. The voice came again, closer now. Tariq. Not echoing, but slithering between the rocks, weaving around him like smoke. His steps quickened. The dry air grew heavier, thick with the smell of something rotted. Suddenly, a shadow darted across the path, faster than the eye could follow. Panic clawed at his throat. He ran, heart hammering. But the desert is a cruel trickster. The more he fled, the more the path twisted, looping back on itself. Then, from the corner of his eye, a glimpse. A figure, pale and twisted, dragging itself across the sand, whispering his name over and over.
Tariq.
The next morning, a search party found Tariq, kneeling in the sand, lips moving silently. When they touched him, he screamed so loudly the birds fled the sky. Tariq never spoke again. But sometimes, late, at night, those who pass by that wadi swear they hear a broken voice murmuring, still calling for help. Story 2. The Cursed Home of Al-Mazra. In a crumbling village where the walls bleed with salt and time, an old house sat rotting under the relentless desert sun. Locals whispered of strange lights flickering at night, screams, muffled by stone, and doors that opened, but never closed. A young couple, desperate for shelter, ignored the warnings. They moved in believing only in what they could see, but the house, it was waiting. The first night was uneventful save for a knocking, soft, persistent, coming from inside the walls. The second night, the wife awoke to the smell of burning flesh, but there was no fire, only a shadow standing at the foot of their bed, watching. They fled, but found themselves back at the calle. No matter how far they ran, every road twisted and returned them to that rotting doorstep. Reality was no longer theirs. On the third night, in the suffocating dark, the husband vanished. His screams echoed from the walls, from the floors, from inside her mind. When villagers finally forced their way inside, they found the house empty, except for a charred handprint seared into the center of the bed. The house still stands, daring any soul foolish enough to cross its threshold. None ever last beyond 3 nights. Story 3. The Silent Woman of the Empty Quarter. Deep in Rub al-Khali, the empty quarter, the largest, most desolate desert on earth, lies a story whispered. Only around dying campfires, travelers speak of a woman, draped in tattered black, her face veiled, her feet never touching the ground. A group of explorers, drunk on bravado, sought to prove the tale false. They ventured deep into the dunes, laughing at the superstitions. They camped under the frozen stars, daring the darkness to show itself. Midnight, the wind died. The world fell into a silence so total it crushed their very thoughts. Then they saw her. standing at the edge of the firelight, unmoving. Her head tilted slowly, unnaturally. The explorers called out, no answer. One man, foolish and fearless, stepped forward. She raised her hand, and he fell, silent, lifeless, before his body hit the sand. The others ran, but wherever they looked, she was there, closer, closer. The dunes themselves seemed to pull them under, their screams swallowed by the unrelenting sands. Only one survived, found days later, babbling about the woman with no face and the desert that eats men whole. He never crossed into the empty quarter again. Few dare to, even now. If you ever find yourself lost in the deserts of Arabia, if you hear your name whispered from the rocks, if you see a door that shouldn't be there, or glimpse a woman standing, silent in the dunes, run, but remember, in these ancient sands, sometimes running only leads you deeper into the nightmare.